The 05-06 Edmonton Oilers were a very interesting team. They just squeaked into the playoffs. They were 8th in the conference. They were the last seed, and they were up against a David versus Goliath situation, up against the President's Trophy winning Detroit Red Wings. Miraculously, this team beat the Wings 4-2. The hockey world was shocked. The 8th seed beat the number 1 seed, so they went on to face the San Jose Sharks in round 2. Again, they beat them in 6 games. Onto the Western Conference Final up against Teemu Selanne and the Anaheim Ducks. They got rid of them pretty easy, 4-1, and then off to the Stanley Cup Finals, one of the most memorable Stanley Cup Finals in my life anyways. I remember watching every single game with my grandpa. I remember it was just such a close series, and eventually the Oilers lost in 7 games to the Stanley Cup champion Carolina Hurricanes. So we have remade that exact roster in NHL 17. We are going to go kind of a different way in this throwback team build. We've only done Stanley Cup champions so far. I wanted to see a team that wasn't really supposed to go anywhere. Obviously they were the 8th seed, so they weren't expected to do much, and this team made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. This was the little team that could. These guys had all the heart in the world going up against some teams that they had no business beating, but somehow they found a way. So let's see if these Edmonton Oilers can go up against today's NHL in 2017, up against the powerhouses of like Chicago and San Jose, all those great teams. Let's see how this team stacks up against today's NHL. So here is the roster. On the first line left wing, you have Ales Hemsky. Now I actually didn't have to create him since that was only like 11-12 years ago. I didn't have to create Ales Hemsky. He's still playing in the NHL, although he's quite a bit older than what he was last time. He was 22 when they went on this Stanley Cup run. Now he's 33. You can see there 92 passing. I put that passing up pretty high because he had 58 helpers, 19 goals for 77 points, leading this team in scoring. He was so much fun to watch. This guy was just electric out there. In the middle, we have Sean Horkoff, who finished 2nd in the team in scoring with 73 points. He was a young 26-year-old when they ended up going on that Stanley Cup run. Obviously, now he is retired. And then the heart and soul of this team, Ryan Smith. My mom's favorite player. She loves Ryan Smith. This guy had all the heart in the world. He was the backbone of this team. He would do it all. He was the ultimate Edmonton Oiler, Captain Canada, Ryan Smith. He finished with 36 goals, 30 helpers for 66 points, and ended up having 16 points in 24 games in the Stanley Cup run. So a very well-rounded player, a player that I watched a ton growing up. Ryan Smith was awesome. And you got Sergei Samsonov, who was acquired earlier in the year. He was acquired from the Boston Bruins. Now this guy was full of speed. He's only 5'8", but he was a beast out there. I remember watching him early in his career with the Boston Bruins, had a few 30-goal years. He only ended up playing 19 regular season games, but had 16 points, so he was doing pretty well there. And in the postseason, he had 15 points in 24 games, so he was quite a big piece to this team going on into the Stanley Cup Finals. On the second line center position, you have Jared Stoll. This guy was actually drafted twice, which is pretty funny. Drafted by the Calgary Flames in the 2nd round. For some reason, they didn't sign him, so 2 years later, he was re-entered into the draft and taken by the other Alberta team to obviously taken by the Edmonton Oilers. Now, he was 3rd on the team in scoring, 22 goals, 46 helpers for 68 points, made him 86 overall. And then you have one of my favorite players. Now, I know I might get some hate for this, but Raffi Torres. This guy was a ton of fun to watch. I loved Raffi Torres growing up. Obviously, he was a piece of the Vancouver Canucks Stanley Cup run, so he's got a special place in my heart. Raffi Torres was only 23 years old. He had 27 goals, only 14 helpers, so he was more like a Patrick Maroon of today's Edmonton Oilers. One thing about Raffi Torres is he had great numbers in junior. He ripped it up. Obviously, he was a top 5 pick drafted by the Islanders. You got Radek Dvorak here on the 3rd line left wing. Now, a few years before this, he had 50 points. He slowed down a little bit, only 28 points in this regular season, but he didn't have that great of a postseason either. 16 games played, only 2 helpers, so he was hurt, or he was a healthy scratch, I don't quite remember. And centering Radek Dvorak, you got Mike Pekka. Now this guy was coming to the end of his career. He was 31 years old, kind of washed up at this point. He actually played pretty well throughout his time with Edmonton, had 23 points in the regular season, but came alive in the postseason. He had 11 in 24 games. You got Fernando Pisani. Now this guy was the playoff hero for this squad. He scored so many clutch goals, a few overtime winners. Miraculously, this guy had 14 goals in the playoffs, 18 points in 24 games. He was the unsung hero. I remember so many games, it was either, a couple minutes left in the third period or in overtime, and for some reason, Fernando Pisani always seemed to have the puck on his stick, and he won quite a few games for the Edmonton Oilers. 14 goals in the postseason is pretty remarkable. You got one of my favorite Oilers of all time, Georges Laraque. This guy was a beast. 6'4", 245 pounds. Not going to put up a ton of numbers for you. He actually had 12 points during the regular season, and he had 2 points in the postseason. So really not going to put up a ton of points, but he was a fan favorite. He was terrifying to fight. If you go up against Georges Laraque, you are a tough bastard. No one wanted to fight Georges Laraque, and for good reason. He was a tank. Fun fact, Georges Laraque trained with Georges St. Pierre in the offseason, and I'm sure that helped him on the ice. We got Ethan Moreau here on the fourth line. Another heart and soul player of the Edmonton Oilers. Ethan Moreau was a great bottom six player for Edmonton. And you got Steve Staios, who spent a lot of time in Edmonton, just a good bottom six guy. Good to have there. This fourth line is actually very grindy. Moving on to the defense, you got Chris Pronger at a 91 overall. He had 12 goals, 44 assists, 56 points in the regular season, but the postseason is where he came alive. He led the team in scoring in the playoffs, 21 points in 24 games. What a beast. Chris Pronger's defensive partner is Marc-Andre Bergeron, a very offensively minded defenseman, 15 goals throughout the regular season, and didn't have that great of a postseason, only had 3 points, but I believe he was injured. A little weird fact here, I actually sat with Marc-Andre Bergeron's wife on a plane. She was seated next to me, and she asked me what I did. I was actually on a flight from an EA event, and I told her that I was a YouTuber, and she's like, "Oh, do you know Marc-Andre Bergeron?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do. He's in the game." So that was kind of weird, but I sat beside his wife. Kind of a fun fact. And then you got Dick Tarnstrom here, who was acquired from the Pittsburgh Penguins at the trade deadline. Just a nice piece there to have on your defensive core. Nothing flashy, just gets the job done. And speaking of getting the job done, Yaroslav Spacek, who was a great defensive defenseman. He played quite a few years in Buffalo, and then I think he ended his career with the Montreal Canadiens. And you got Jason Smith, who was actually the captain of this team, who is a pretty decent defensive defenseman. Very physical. He was a beast out there. He was the captain. And you got Matt Green, who was only 23 when they went on this Stanley Cup run. So 10 years later, here he is, defensive defenseman. Very physical, a nice defensive piece. Now, moving on to the goaltenders, you have Dwayne Rollison, who, if you want to go look at some highlights, go look up Dwayne Rollison's saves. There's one particular save against the San Jose Sharks, I'll link it in the description, that just gives me goosebumps every single time. I believe it was on Patrick Marleau, I could be wrong though. In the backup, you got UC Markin. Now, during the postseason, Dwayne Rollison actually went down with an injury right before the Stanley Cup Finals, and UC Markkinen, the backup goalie, was forced to come in there and play. He played 6 games, and he actually played very well. Again, I'll link another highlight pack of him in the description down below. UC Markkinen was phenomenal in the Stanley Cup Finals. He was unbelievable. I will link another highlight pack in the description. Just go watch that. UC Markkinen made some just ridiculous saves. So let's go ahead here, start the simulation, and against the Battle of Alberta, we get spanked 8-3. That's not good at all, but I want to slow sim this game in particular against the Carolina Hurricanes. 11 years later, let's see how this matchup stacks up. First period, 2-0 Lindholm and Rask against Dwayne Rollison. We get 2, Dick Tarnstrom and Steve Staios. All right, going into the third period, can we come back? No, Carolina beats us. Once again, we cannot get our revenge. I gotta slow sim every game against Carolina. I'm not sure how many games we actually have against the Canes, because they're obviously in another division, but I see a couple here. So let's go ahead here and simulate the rest of the year, see how this team stacks up against the new age NHL. I'm not sure how we're gonna do, because the other teams we had, they were powerhouses. They had, a bunch of 90s, and they were just stacked. And obviously they had great regular seasons, but during the simulation in the playoffs, they didn't do that well. But we're on a 3-game winning streak here, trying to make it 4. There you go. Can we make it 5? Oh yeah, baby. Make it 6? No, overtime loss, unfortunately. 7-1 against the LA Kings. Okay, this team can put up some numbers. 7-6 shootout win. 10-2. What is this team. Oh my god, they're firing on all cylinders. Goal scoring is real with this team. Holy. But this team, I'm not quite sure how we're going to do. I hope we do well, but we're 15-7-5. That's not bad at all. I wasn't really expecting us to be this good. We seem to be killing it right now. But again, this team was the little team that could. I remember I was visiting my grandfather during this playoff run, and we were glued to the TV every single game. That's one of the best hockey memories that I have, just watching this Stanley Cup final with my grandpa. It was so much fun, especially we were in Alberta at the time as well, so the vibe was just electric. It was a ton of fun. Now, fun fact, UC Markkanen is actually still playing in the Swiss Elite League right now. You can see there he actually only played one game, so I'm not sure if he came back for one retirement game or something, one final game, but it's pretty remarkable. At 41 years old, he's still playing, which is pretty crazy. Here's just a look at the Detroit Red Wings roster. This is the team that they beat in round number 1. They went 58-16-8. That is an insane record, obviously winning the President's Trophy up against Pavel Datsyuk, Zetterberg, Shanahan, Lidstrom, Holmstrom. The list goes on and on and on. What a ridiculous team. You can see there, just absolutely insane. Pretty much the definition of a David versus Goliath matchup, and somehow they pulled out the victory. Exact same thing with the Anaheim Ducks. You know, they had a great year, coached by Randy Carlyle. Teemu Selanne had 90 points, and again, somehow they found a way to win. You know, against Scott Niedermayer, Joffrey Lupul, Ryan Getzlaff, Corey Perry. Pretty insane how this team knocked off some big time opponents. We got another game against the Carolina Hurricanes. Let's go here. Period number 1. All right, 0-0. Period number 2. Okay, 1-1. Sergei Samsonov. There you go. Period number 3. Can we get our revenge? No. Again, they seem to beat us. We're 0-2 against the Hurricanes. We cannot break the trend. That's sad, and unfortunately we don't have any more games against the Hurricanes. So we finished the season series 0-2. This team was so much fun to watch. Obviously they were the underdog. They weren't supposed to be in this position. I remember just all of Canada rooting for the Edmonton Oilers. Here's actually how the Stanley Cup Finals broke down. If you maybe weren't around during that time, or maybe you weren't a big hockey fan during the 05-06 season, the first 2 games went to Carolina, then Edmonton won game 3, Carolina won game 4, and then Edmonton won 2 straight to force a game 7. And that Edmonton Oilers there, you can see there in game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they had their backs against the wall. Carolina could end up winning with 1 goal, and miraculously they won in overtime. And then they got a shutout in the next game. That was UC Markkanen. I remember that. That was so much fun to watch. And then in game 7, unfortunately, the Carolina Hurricanes came through with a 3-1 victory. So a very exciting Stanley Cup final. We have one last game here against the Vancouver Canucks, and it looks like our record is pretty good. So let's go here. First period. Nice little practice before the postseason. 2-2. George the Rock gets a big goal. There you go. We haven't won a game in the slow simulation yet, and are we going to win one? Come on, in a shootout? No. We go 0-3 in the slow sim games, but it's alright. We are on our way to the playoffs, baby. Who do we got in round number 1? The San Jose Sharks. Alright, a matchup of 05-06. Let's go ahead here and see how we did. So, 97 points. That's not bad at all. Not bad for the little team that could. Sergei Samsonov led the way with 84 points. Unbelievable. Alex Hemsky right behind him was 78. Ryan Smith was 72. Stoll was 68. 32 goals. So a lot of goals were being scored here. Look at all the 50-point guys we had. Look at all the 40-point guys we had. That's awesome. Marc-Andre Bergeron led the way defensively. Mike Pekka on the third line, 45 points. There you go. Rafi Torres, 19 goals. You can see here Chris Pronger had 17. He was a plus 26. So that's pretty impressive. George the Rock with 20 points. Attaboy. 82 penalty minutes. It looks like he put the fists away and scored some goals. There you go, using his hands in a different way. Let's check out the goaltenders here, and then we'll check out the entire NHL scoring just for fun. Dwayne Rollison there, 38 and 24, and Markkanen went 6 and 6. So just for fun here, let's see how the Just for fun here, let's have a look at the entire NHL scoring. Craig Henderson had a ridiculous year. Holy crap. Having a look at rookie goalies, you should see Matthews and Laine up there. Patrick Laine had 86 points. Matthews had 75. Marner, Nylander, there you go. And looking into all skaters, Steven Stamkos, 121 points. Holy crap. Almost hit 60 goals. That is ridiculous. Kucherov right behind him. Crosby with 102. Palat with 100, so that must have been that first line there. Kucherov, Stamkos, and Palat. Ryan O'Reilly with 100. Yager with 96. Attaboy Yogs. Ovi with 95. Tarasenko, Duchesne, Tavares. So a lot of goal scoring here happening. Adam Henrique, Patrick Laine, Johnny Gaudreau, Corey Perry. You can see there. Everyone put up a ton of numbers this year. So let's go ahead and get the postseason underway up against the San Jose Sharks. Now, the simulation has not been kind to us at all. It has been terrible. So I'm hoping that we can get some better simulation luck here. We lost 7-2 last week against the San Jose Sharks. You can see there right before the playoffs. We do have a 2-1 lead though. Back-to-back shutouts in game 1 and 2. All right, the Sharks have their back up against the wall and we get past them. There you go. 4-1. That's not bad. I'll take that. In the actual playoffs, they beat the San Jose Sharks 4-2. So wasn't too far off here. And in round number 2, who do we got? Oh, all right, the LA Kings. We didn't see this matchup in the 2005-2006 run. That would have been a lot of fun as well. We take game 1, lose game 2, lose game 3. All right, we're down 2-1 here. Okay, we're down 3-1. This could be it. This could be it for this team. Uh-oh. Backs are up against the wall. The little team that could. Let's go here. Slow simulation. Game number 5. Let's go. First period. 2-2. All right. Sergei Samsonov and Ryan Smith. Period number 2. 3-2. Here we go. Matt Green. This guy had 1 goal in the regular season and he makes it count in the postseason. And wow, we come through with a big victory. The little team that could. This Edmonton Oilers team shows no quitting. All right. They take game 5. Hopefully take game 6 in our home ice, and then it looks like we're going to LA for game 7. Let's go here. First period. Okay, Trevor Lewis scores with 37 seconds left. That's a momentum killer. Period number 2. All right, we get one. Fernando Pisani, the playoff hero. Can we score a goal and tie this game up? Chris Pronger, baby, there you go. The big man gets a big goal, tying it up. 14 minutes left. Steve Stais, a 4th liner. Unbelievable. Chris Pronger gets another one. Oh my god, this team shows absolutely no quit. Ryan Smith makes it 5-2. The little team that could. Unbelievable. What a third period. They score 4 goals, 5 goals. They light up Jonathan Quick like a Christmas tree, making it 6-2. Unreal. They force a game 7 in round number 2. Oh my god. This is remarkable. This team, holy. Let's go here. Game number 7 against LA. Do what you did in game 6. Let's go. First period. 1-1. There you go. Sean Horkoff. I'll take it. Period number 2. All right. 3-2. George the Rock. The crowd goes wild. The crowd in Edmonton in Rexall Place in the old arena. They don't even play in that arena anymore. They got a whole new rink. No more Connor McDavid. We got George the Rock, baby. We're down by 1. Come on, boys. You can do it. Chris Pronger. Where are you, buddy? We need you. Fernando Pisani. Somebody step up. 3 minutes left. 2 minutes. Oh my god, I thought we scored there. Anze Kopitar puts the nail in the coffin and we get bounced in round number 2. But you know what? That's kind of what I was expecting with this team. I wasn't expecting us to really do any damage in the playoffs, but we got past round number 1. We made it close in round number 2, but unfortunately it just was not meant to be. The 44-29-9 Edmonton Oilers were eliminated in round number 2, and Ovi gets his ring. There you go. The Capitals win the Stanley Cup. So let's have a look here at the awards. Maybe some Edmonton Oiler took home some hardware, and I want to see the playoff stats as well. Let's see here. Mike Pekka led the way with 9 points. Samsonov with 8. Where's Fernando Pisani? He had 3 goals for 6 points there. All right. Didn't really put up a ton of numbers, unfortunately. George the Rock led the way, +4, but 26 penalty minutes. That guy was throwing the fists. Mike Pekka there led the way. Unfortunately, we didn't do any damage in the postseason, but that's it from me, guys. Thank you for watching. Let me know what team you'd like me to do next for a throwback team build. I'm not sure if to home any awards or not. Doesn't look like it, unfortunately. So that kind of sucks. But thanks for watching. Let me know what team you want me to do next. I'm down to do any throwback team build within, you know, obviously within reality. I don't want to do like a 1910 Ottawa Senators team. That wouldn't really happen. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.